Hey there, my friends. Andy, coming to you from Yorba Linda, California for the Andy Falco Show. And I got to say, yesterday I was pleasantly surprised at the parents for those of us that have freshmen that are entering Dorado High School in the Placentia-Yorba Linda Unified School District. And the presentation given by the principal. And for years, and I did some specific shows on this issue about culture. And I talked about the culture of leadership is the most important thing at each of the high schools, that the leadership is the one who sets the culture of learning, of safety, of cleanliness, of respect in regards to how students treat one another. And it has to start at the top. Now, it should start at the superintendent's position, but that's obviously not happening. Just watch my video on the one that the principals are being left out there without giving any direction because there is no culture of excellence coming from the school district. But I think on a side note, one of the things I was thinking back when I was making that video is that at least maybe there will be some principles that set, that stand up and set a standard that is very good out of these blank pages that they're given on what is expected of them. And yet we're lucky enough over at Dorado High School to, and I'm going to put this on the screen, finally a potential leader at Eldo High School. And his presentation last night, it's a slightly different title, but I'm naming this, Keeping It Classy. He appears to be keeping it classy, never trashy at Dorado High School. Now, that's really important. That's the title of his presentation. And on the surface, it kind of sounds fun, and interesting. Yeah, let's just keep it classy and not trashy. But his presentation was fantastic. And I got to say that I have real hope. And the reason I put potential is because we never know how it's actually going to turn out. We've been disappointed before in the past at some of the things that have gone on here at PWSD, but I'm hoping, and it appears that this principal, his name is Michael Zides. And Michael Zides appears to be a no-nonsense principal, which we needed. We needed an adult at Dorado High School. Not like we've had in the past, which was we've had one in particular, we had a child running Dorado High School who just simply wanted to be one of the students and a friend to all of the students. He didn't want to lead. He didn't want to set a strong culture of education and no nonsense, going on within the school, and harass the police department so badly that they filed a hostile work environment. Instead, this year, it appears, although he was there at Dorado last year for part of the school year, this is his first full year, and he's coming on strong, and I really do like it. And so Michael Zides put together this presentation. I'm going to share some of it with you so that you understand what it is I'm talking about in regard to his presentation. So I'm going to go to my screen, and here's his first slide, and it's called Keeping It Classy, Never Trashy. And obviously, this speaks to a lot of things. In particular, you put your trash in the trash can. Don't use trashy language. Don't dress like trash. There's rules, and there's a culture that and I'm speaking for him essentially, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. I want to have a culture of excellence in the school and respect for one another. And it was clear from the very beginning that he was no nonsense. I really liked when he came out on stage, and the very first thing he said on the mic as he came out on stage was, "If your kid's not a freshman, you don't belong here. Get out." Now, that was pretty close to what he said, but I just go, whoa, that's different, and I like it. I like that no-nonsense style, that this is for one specific thing, and if you're not here for that one thing and you fit into those parameters, you don't belong here, so this isn't for you. And that is fantastic. So I'm going to skip through some of these slides, and one of them that I found very interesting was that this fourth slide that he put up, and we'll go to my screen, and it talks about Officer Cleveland, who most of us know from school board meetings and from dropping off food and other stuff at the schools. We run into him from time to time, and I give him a head nod. That's what men do. And he puts him up there as a school resource officer and talks about him just a little bit and just introduces him in name. I don't think he was present in the room, but I think that was really significant and important, especially from me, who being a former law enforcement officer, find it extremely important to have a presence on the campuses for all of our schools, and really was really welcoming the idea that when Dr. Chernis was here, is that he put school resources officers in all the schools, and so all the high schools. The next thing that I thought was very significant, and this again was an early slide, it's slide number 6, and he talked about speaking classy, and his thing that he's going to say to his students when he's on campus and hears them use foul language, he's going to ask them, do you need a dictionary? And I just love that he hears foul language all the time, the F word, the S word, what have you, the N word, all these horrible words that they just get so used to using all the time. And I hear my friends, my kids' friends, all the time using these words. And it's really important in our household that these words aren't allowed. You can't even say damn or crap. Those are not allowed in our home. And then what happens is that your students, your children, end up going to school where that's their normal language. And so now you're constantly fighting this issue in your house that they get so used to saying it in school all day long, and then they come home and they forget, and it's just become a part of their normal language. And I really love that he wants to address this and make sure that does not become part of their normal speaking ways in school. And it's extremely important. In my home, sometimes the kids will be on speakerphone with some of their friends, and they'll let their friend who they're talking to will let an F word fly. And then my kid will look at me like real quick, and I'll say, okay, tell him what the rule is, that he's in my house. Even though he's on a speakerphone, he's in my house, and he's not allowed to use that language when he's speaking to you on the phone, especially when you're at home. And then I hear, sorry, Mr. Falco, I won't say that again. And so, yes, if you're a parent of one of my kids' friends, that's just our rule in our house. That word is not spoken in our house. None of those words are spoken in our house. So I really enjoyed that part of it. A very funny moment. He talked about some of these new words like Riz and Aura, Skibbity, Sigma, and kind of had some fun with that, saying that he's trying to learn what those words are to make sure that they're not foul language. And so again, it's just really important. I think that is a culture. That's the culture that we want. We want a culture of learning, of being respectful, not using foul language, learning how to speak in a way that is going to be acceptable when they get out of high school and go into the business world are extremely important. The next slide I want to share with you is that he puts school safety as priority number 1. And I love that. So extremely important, and so much so that it's his number 1 priority. I think that just really hit home with me. And I hope that all the parents that were there really understood the importance of having that being a priority in regard to having their IDs and checking in, and not checking in somebody that not bringing somebody into the school that doesn't have an ID, and all the nonsense that has been going on for years and allowed to continue. In slide 11 is that he talked about he's bringing in a demerit policy, and that is that they will receive demerits and they will keep track of these demerits. And every student will be held to the same standard, which again is fantastic. And so he goes through what each demerit count will lead to. And so just really quick, just a couple of them. First demerit is completing campus beautification, which means they have to go around pick up trash. Completing 2 demerits is completing 1 hour of detention. That will remove 2 demerits. And 4 demerits will serve a Saturday school. That will remove 6 demerits. And the important thing is that 6 demerits are bad. It'll lead to the loss of certain privileges. The next thing that he talked about is that he's going to be posting these demerits on the buildings. And I love this. Now, he's not going to use the kids' names. He's going to use their ID numbers that they get as when they become students at PYL-USD. And those numbers will then show how many demerits you have. And you just go look for your number, and you'll be able to see that. Now, I think that kids will be going to those lists, and they'll say, well, how many do you have? And then eventually, the kids will find out, who's in trouble the most. And it'll be a little bit of peer pressure, I think, in some ways. But regardless of that, I really do like this idea, and I hope that he holds true to it. So the privileges that they can lose are dances. They won't be able to go to dances. They could lose their lunch passes, field trips, on-campus parking privileges, club activities, and senior activities, even the attendance in the graduation and their commencement. And again, there has to be a consequence to bad behavior. And having a culture where this is understood, where if you continue to participate in things that are essentially bad behaviors, that there is a consequence. You just don't get your parents called because that rarely does what it's supposed to do. It does on occasion, at least in my house. If I get a call from the principal, you better believe that there's going to be some consequences. However, to know that the school is holding them to a high standard and there are consequences to their actions. This next slide is the expectations. And I do love this. It's we're kind to ourselves and to others. We're responsible for ourselves, and we want to make leaders. So we are leaders with ourselves and in our programs, our school, and our community. Love that. I talk to all my kids about that all the time, is that their expectation as being part of this family is that I expect you to be a leader and always work towards that. That when you get a job, you show up on time, you work hard between the hours you're supposed to be working, and you're the last to leave. If there's a group of you that get off at the same time, you want to be the last to leave to make sure that all the jobs have been done. And what you're working towards is potentially being a leader, and at least showing your boss that you are a leader in your role at your job. And so this is really important. This starts in high school. And again, it's creating a culture that I would expect. Number 17, the expectations is the honor code is always in effect. If you make a mistake, take responsibility for it. Making a mistake and lying about it will only make it worse. We already know. Again, this is one of my favorite slides. And again, one you have to hold your kids to is that there's an honor in your family, an honor code in your family. There should be the same honor code at the school. That if you do something wrong, or you purposefully say something negative to somebody or hurt somebody, that you own up to it and you say, yes, I did it. And there is no, the other guy did it, or it's because of the other person that I did something, or what have you, that's not allowed. You did something and it was wrong, and you say, yes, I did it. And he said that goes a long ways in the decision making as far as the demerits are concerned and the potential punishment for that. This next slide, extremely important for him, and I do love it, and I'll discuss this in a minute, but I like that it's not about tolerance, it's about acceptance. And I couldn't agree with him more. And, I don't want to go on too long about this because I can go into a bunch of different areas, but, again, the kids need to understand that you have to accept that this world is full of different people. You have different size people, you have people of different cultures and religions and understandings of what's going on in the world. Politically, you have some differences, but understanding that when you're together, you have to accept that that's the case. That it's not an excuse for saying horrible things to somebody or bringing up something that's going to cause them to have a negative response to it. That as you're with a group of people, and again, this goes towards when they graduate from high school and get into the world or get into the business world, is that your expectations are that you're there for one specific thing. In school, you're there to learn. in a business, if it's carpentry, you're there to build a house, for instance. And it's not about all these other things. That you accept that you may be working alongside somebody. If you're a Christian, you may be working next to an atheist. You may be working, with somebody that maybe is a little bit slower and isn't as educated as you in a particular skill that you have. And the same thing goes in school, and understanding that's the case. One thing I really try to make sure that the kids understand is that I don't like it when you come home and say how horrible somebody is, or that somebody's fat, or that somebody's stupid, or that somebody on your team is a bad player, or they're horrible. And I say, okay, well, what did you do about that? Did you help them? Say, for instance, my kids like to play lacrosse, at least my boys do. And when they're, on a team and there's somebody that just doesn't have the skills, maybe they didn't have the history of practicing, prior to getting into high school, or be on a team or be on a club team prior to that, and they just haven't developed the skills. Saying they're horrible and they're lousy is going to get you nowhere. What my question is to them is, how did you help them? Did you talk to them about maybe the way that they're holding the stick, or maybe the way that they're cradling the ball, or the way that they're scooping, that they need to bend their knees a little bit more? How did you help them become better? I don't want to hear you tell me how horrible somebody is without you telling me that, this guy's struggling with this. And so what I did was I took him aside and I worked on the skill with him. Or on the weekends, when you don't have school, I invited him to the park where we could work on some of these skills together. That's what I want to hear. And I don't want you to say that he's horrible. I want you to say there was a guy who's struggling with whatever, and this is what I did to help it. Saying somebody is horrible or stupid or dumb or whatever is just a horrible way of acting, and it isn't what is expected of you in this household. You have higher expectations here, and I want you to accept that there's going to be people that need your help. And calling them names, doing things to them, treating them, mistreating them, or what have you, is not acceptable. It talked about that the rules are the rules, and no matter what it is that's happening at home, say you're allowed to vape, maybe you're allowed to do other nonsense and cuss. That's not the rules in the school. The schools are the rules, and here you're not allowed to do that. And I thought that was extremely important. And there's so much more. I can go on and on about tardies and truances and all this kind of stuff. He addressed all those things, and about how they'll get, there'll be consequences to those things, and demerits that will be assigned to them. The next thing I thought was extremely important, and you know this because I've talked about it for years, and that is the dress code, and setting that standard through the way that you speak, the way that you treat others, and including in your dress code, I thought was really important, because this has been addressed so many times that it just seems that, some of the past principals just don't seem to care that this is a place for debauchery, with, hats that have some type of Miller beer or Budweiser on it, or T-shirts that have the middle finger, or, gang insignias on them, and revealing clothing and that type of thing, that those things are not going to be allowed. And so it's extremely important. And I like at the bottom, it says modest is hottest. And yes, it is difficult as parents, when you're, saying that you can't wear that certain thing, and then they go, well, they let us do it at school, and now you have to combat what's being allowed at school. It's great that we can say it here, and it'll mean the same thing when they're at school. I think that is extremely important. Back to my screen, they're going to always be required to have their ID. What a concept, that you have to show your ID to get into school. Now, if high school students can have an ID and required to have an ID, I think adults can be required to have an ID. So I think this is a great thing that they're doing. Again, making sure that only people that are on the school grounds are people that belong on the school ground, and that's extremely important. Okay, here's a big one for me, and it's lunch deliveries. Lunch deliveries are no longer allowed at Dorado High School. And again, it's something I've talked about not only on my show, but with my kids, and they've shared with me that, Dad, there are a lot of people getting food delivered there. However, there are people that are getting drugs delivered there, and other paraphernalia that does not belong on school campus. And they've been telling me this for years, and I've talked about it, and I'm so happy that this principal has decided that no longer will they allow Grubhub, or I don't even know the others. I don't let my kids do this even at home. So I forget what they are. Uber Eats, I think, is another one. So yeah, none of those things are allowed. And he's citing safety concerns. And again, that just shows his commitment to keeping our kids safe. So I really appreciate him stopping the deliveries of these apps. Oh, here's another big one. The number one thing on his keeping it classy at events is that you will stop and you will stand for the national anthem and the singing of the alma mater. Again, this is a culture thing. You're creating a culture that is extremely important. Honoring the flag, honoring the United States of America, and it's number one on this list. I love that. They'll have the same dress code, and he says, do not embarrass us. Do not be an embarrassment to El Dorado. Again, having a culture of this is our high school, and you need to respect it, and it would be great if you loved it, and you supported it, and you thought highly of it. And I just think that that's extremely important. Remind me to talk about, well, you can't, but I'm going to be talking about broken windows theory in just a little bit. But, well, I do love this. And it has to do with traffic and parking, that you have to have your pass. And then if there's any violations of a vehicle that's parked that doesn't have a pass, they will get a citation, a $10 citation that will go out. The citation looks like this. And one is a warning, and the next one is a $10 fine that goes to ASB. And then after that, it will get towed. Oh, sorry, that's not, it was on here somewhere, but he said he will tow it. If you think I'm kidding. Oh, there we go. Down at the bottom there, it says, we will tow. No, really, we will tow. And he says, you know what? You tow just once and it doesn't happen again. So that is great that there are these standards, and then they're going to be upheld. And if you want to test it, find out what happens. We will tow your car. What I had here, I'm going to go back to my screen, is that academic dishonesty. And that's going to, again, you're building a culture. And if you're not properly citing your sources, you're copying from the internet, copying from any work that is not yours, using AI inappropriately, and using unauthorized notes on tests and quizzes. This is really important. I cannot stand AI in regards to kids using it to complete their reports on a book that they're supposed to be read. Make the kids read the book and actually write the report. They can't use AI, and I hope that this is upheld. That really just drives me crazy that they use AI to do their math, they use AI to do all their work, and they're not learning. And they're not learning how to write. They're not learning how to work through the problems. They're not learning how to read because there's no requirement to read. They have AI do it for them, and then they just simply have AI write the report for them. So good on Mr. Zides for doing this. I just really appreciate him taking this stand. It's extremely important. This one here is suspendable offenses: alcohol, vaping, drugs, weapons, theft, vandalism, extortion, fighting. Videotaping a fight is also a no-no. Bullying, harassment, sexual harassment, hate crimes, social media posting, threats, all are suspendable. Love that. And then the last one is, he goes back to a slide. Again, understanding that accepting what it is that the school is, and that it's full of people that are different than you, and you need to accept that and learn how to work within those parameters. That is fantastic. All right, the last thing I want to end on is that in law enforcement, back in the 80s, we had this policy of the broken windows theory, which has gone away for the most part in law enforcement. Many departments are trying to bring it back. But this is in creating a culture of excellence, of education, of having a no tolerance, for the most part, no tolerance stance on things, is that you, in the broken theories, idea, is that you take care of all these small things. Pick up trash and throw it away. Make sure that our campus is not trashy. Use appropriate words. Don't use trashy words. Making sure that they understand clearly what happens when they cheat or use AI to finish a homework assignment. There's going to be consequences. That we are going to hold you to the standard, and if you decide to misbehave, there is going to be consequences that we will post and show what it is that's happening. with these particular individuals. And then if you continue and you get so many demerits and you continue to misbehave, there are going to be consequences. You're not going to be able to go to the games, the dances. You may not even be able to show up at the graduation on graduation day. That is extremely important. You take all these little small things, which are seemingly small to some people, being on your phone. There's a issue that he brought up about not wanting them to have phones in the classroom type of thing, or at least beyond them in the classrooms. That all these things are important. Having these rules and clearly stating them, and then when they are violated, taking action right away is a broken windows theory that works. It cleans up communities. It cleans up neighborhoods. It really does work. It keeps from the bigger things from happening. It keeps them from happening. If you take care of the small things, the big things won't happen. At least they won't happen as readily in a culture that does not have the broken windows theory, in the sense that you're taking care of the small things. So I really do appreciate Michael Zides and his presentation. Now, it's important to see that he actually holds up to these things. I think he will, based on his demeanor, the way he talked, and the way he laid them out. There's going to be a lot of parents that are going to hold him accountable to his words, that these things are followed through. And I mean, gosh, I've been asking for a principal that has some type of standards, that wants to create a culture of excellence at one of these schools. And I'm so happy that it's Dorado High School where my kids go to school. So again, thank you, Michael Zides, for putting that together. And looking forward to seeing you at work. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.